Welcome to the Clock Tower, I'm Brandon, and today we're looking at 8 Pants Ayakashi Triangle. Here's an overview of what the deck looks like. The main part of this deck is really going to be playing into its mid-game. That is the whole reason why running this deck, that's the whole reason why you build everything else around this deck. That is the entire point of this deck. So let's look at it. It really revolves around these two pieces, Huge Sweet Tooth Suzu and Rampant Desire Suzu. Huge Sweet Tooth Suzu allows you to, on play, choose a character and put it into your clock. And if you do, draw a card. Its combo is put this into waiting room and choose the Rampant Desire Suzu from your hand and put it on stage in that spot. So you can bring it down, in this case, as early as 2. Rampant Desire Suzu says when you put it on stage, it's -3 levels and hexproof, so it counts as a level 0. Can't be chosen by opponent's effects, so you can't be targeted by like tap counter or anything like that. Heals, but when it heals, it goes to choosing a character in clock and put it to memory. And then it has the climax combo with the pants to choose one of 2 actions, either burn one or heal. So effectively with this combo, when placing the card on stage and then for the combo choosing to heal, you can heal up to 6 times in a single turn, which is fantastic. If you're going to heal, you might as well heal all the way. Being able to do that at 2, I think is actually really strong. The difference between 2-6 and 2-0 is huge. It also allows you to be able to move outside of threat and ranges of opponents' endgames, so being able to kind of heal with this kind of consistency at 2 is pretty crazy. With that in mind, because it's on pants, you have a little bit more options to be able to potentially loop your combo a little bit faster, a little bit quicker to be able to do that. So you have potentials to be able to just keep this combo going, keep healing down, and maybe even win from 2 as opposed to swinging from 3. Because you're at level 0s on field, your opponents can side into you, so they can still deal damage to you. However, when they do that, you're also potentially able to steal. When they do that, you're also then swinging back at them for a little bit smaller numbers than maybe some other combos with this kind of same idea would do, which means they're more likely to stick, so it means you could potentially just actually loop this combo really efficiently and effectively to make it happen. So like it actually sets it up really well to potentially do this, and it's really, really cool. Everything else is to help get you to that point, to set up this combo to make this work. This is your focal point of the deck. Is it super explosive? No, it's not. But it's playing into the idea that if you heal down enough, you can outlast your opponent. So, with that in mind, let's just go right from the beginning and work our way through. Starting off at 0 to help us get to our mid-game, we have the feminine side Matsuri. On play, you can ditch a climax to be able to salvage a character, as well as at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, pay 1 clock self to bounce this card and another card into your hand. This allows us to be able to be really aggressive at 0, but still keep the resources needed to keep moving forward and pushing forward. It also really plays well into our Chaser, that we can set up lanes for our Chaser to run into. I really like this card as a potential advantage engine at 0 to be able to potentially save 2, because the more cards you can save here, the better, because you're going to need as many cards as you can here. Finishing off yellow at 0, we have the temporary daily life Matsuri. This is a card where it allows us to be able to clock a character from hand, just look it up to top 3 and choose 1. Very much that CX assurance. We desperately need climax for our mid-game combo. This is a way to help us get it. Because if we have a healing combo, we don't feel too bad about clocking ourselves to be able to get the climax into hand. Looking at our only red of the deck, we have the More Than Friends Matsuri and Suzu. This is our Chaser, but also gives our opponents Encore 2. But because it sits at 3-5, this is our oversize at 0, but because it can chase and move around, it has a lot of potential to stick around for that next turn. Going into the blue of the level 0s, we have Special Relationship Suzu. This is both a clock filter and a brainstorm. Clock filter being when placed on stage, you can choose a card in your clock, add it back to your hand, and then choose a card in your hand and put it in your clock. So you can choose climaxes with it. This works really well with some of our other things where we're putting specific characters into our clock, that we can then use this card to pull them out. So it's essentially an extra filter for our hand to be able to pull out a clock. attached with a salvage brainstorm to get the characters back from waiting room back into hand so we can loop the characters over and over again. We also have Communicating with Aliens Lucy. This is our level 0 assist, notably that our level 1 combo and our level 3 combo are also technically zeros. So they will give every card in front of that 1,000 power. It also has the Pants assist, that whenever you trigger a Pants, you can ditch a card to look at the top 2 cards of your deck and add 1 to hand. So you don't have to ditch a climax, you can salvage a climax and ditch something else. Or, if you have too many Pants, you can ditch a Pants to be able to filter out into the next 2 cards. Pants assist is really nice here. We also have Unreserved Physical Contact Yayoi. Pay 1, pitch 1, search your deck for a character. So your drop search to profile, plus on attack, choose a character, give it 1500 power till end of turn. So power pump to be able to step over things is needed. Drop search to get the characters we need. We have a very specific hand that we're looking to build into, so with that in mind, we want to make sure that we're getting it. This is just very much an insurance card to make that happen. As much as we have a level 1 combo, we're setting up for our mid-game almost right off the bat. So being able to just get those pieces into hand is really important. We only need 3 stock to make our mid-game go off. All other stock is basically used around making sure that happens. We have the Ayakashi Medium Suzu. This is our Ricky profile. Pay 1 clock self, search for a level 1 or lower character. Pay 1 plus, essentially to be able to help get to our mid-game here. You can get pieces that we might need, like our Brainstormer, like our CX swap, like our level 1 combo if we need to get more resources into hand. We have potential here with this card to be able to get a piece to help get us the next piece. We run Relieve Suzu as a climax combo that we don't run because we're only really playing it for the CX swap. Being able to change out the climax to the climax we need is exactly what we're looking for here. That's exactly what we need of it. I run it as a 2 of because knowing me, I'll bury it in stock turn 1. But that rounds out our level 0 lineup. Essentially tools to be able to help us get to the next step, help us get it to the next place, try to save as many resources as possible, or use stock versus cards in hand to be able to get what we need. Going into level 1, 2 level 1 cards. We have the Moment of Everlasting Summer Suzu, which is our climax combo. If all characters are traded as they should be, the card gets -1 and plus power. So it sits at 5/5 defensively, but also level 0. Anything that they don't step over is a plus for you, so you don't really care one way or the other. Your goal is to get to 2 to start healing down and winning the game from there. The climax combo itself being when Pants is placed, search your deck for a character, add it to hand. So we have to pull cards out of your deck, way to get the cards you need into hand. This is all to help set up your mid game. Our other level 1 card is actually a true level 1, and it gets 3,000 power until end of turn, so it sits at 5/5 offensively, defensively at 2/5, and it's our Rico profile, right? So you'll be able to discard a card, reveal the top card of the deck, and then salvage a character equal to that level or lower from waiting room. Typically, that's going to be 0. We run a lot of zeros in this deck, but those zeros allow us to be able to get cards we need. Between the Brainstorm and the CX swap, those are probably your 2 big targets for that. Likely it's going to be the Brainstormer just because of the clock filter along with it, being able to potentially filter out 2 different cards in your hand. Being able to potentially just go and grab it. It's also another way to be able to ditch out more extra Pants. Going into level 2, we have an anti-change counter, Grammy Hunter Lucy. This is our anti-change counter that's actually relatively cheap. Pay 1, pitch 1, sack 1 to be able to remove a character from your opponent's board that's higher than it should be. Because of how cheap the combo is and how cheap the anti-change counter is, you basically can have this online as soon as you hit 2. So in the matchups that you want it to have, you will have it ready to go. You will basically have a board of zeros as well that your opponents can just side around. So it's very much incentive to side. But if they side, you can just combo again. So like this card is kind of like the deterrent to make your opponent's side to keep your characters around so you can keep that combo going. This is your deterrent to help keep your combo going, to keep healing it to keep going and surviving. So I have it currently as a 1 of. I wouldn't be surprised if you wanted to put this as a 2 of, just so that way you're guaranteeing to try to get this into hand to threaten your opponent, so that way you can actually combo more. At the same time, it's also pretty matchup dependent too. Like if your opponent doesn't have anything that's anti-changeable, all of a sudden that becomes a little bit more interesting. And that kind of plays into the next one, the Friendly Girl Yayoi, to be able to play into those matchups. Because this card allows us to be able to, when a climax is placed, give something 4,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So So it gets 4K power cross turn to our 11K mid game. Giving 4K puts it at 15, which then all of a sudden is actually a really threatenable range against just about anything currently in the meta. Either forcing them to side it or forcing them to play extra resources to try to step over it, which then you can back up against. So this card here is very much a matchup dependent card, but I think it's actually very viable in where we are right now. The second power that it has with it is the CX support. The same CX support is on the level 0, so you still have that kind of ability on field with this card in play. To round out the list, we have Suited Up Suzu. If our climax is in clock at level 2, this can come down early. When placed on stage, rest a character, and if you do, half Fumio your opponent, choose one climax in their waiting room. They choose one climax in their waiting room, and they return all the other cards back into their deck. So if they are very compressed, you can try to help decompress them in this kind of way. Notably, there's no stock swap, and this is your real only decompression tool. Playing into it as needed is very important here. You're also not like pushing crazy amounts of damage here. At best, you have burn 1s, and that's only if you already heal them off. Basically, you're only playing the burn 1 for the combo itself. You're only playing the burn 1 for the combo if you've already healed off effectively, unless you're trying to just close out the game from a very small range. This card allows your 3s to stick a little bit more. Last up, we have Fellow Girl Suzu. When placed on stage, you can send one of your other characters that are on stage and put it into stock. During the turn that this card's placed on stage, when this card attacks, you can pay 2, ditch card from hand to burn 4. It's a nice supplement tool alongside your combo piece. It doesn't require a climax to have this extra burn, so if you're trying to close out a game and you want to stick a little bit more damage, this is a card you can potentially just walk right into. There's a decent number of soul triggers in the deck, because of the pants especially, but for the most part, your soul triggers are going to be on stage or in waiting room to get those cards on stage. So you're probably only going to be swinging for 3s as opposed to 4s, which I think is actually going to be more sustainable in the mid game to stick damage more efficiently. So I think with that in mind, this deck is actually pretty well positioned where things are at currently. It does a lot of fun things, but it's also very much a gimmick deck, right? It does one thing. It's trying to heal it too. And if you're able to push damage enough on it to be able to get into 3, all of a sudden the deck itself, I think its power threat range is weakened because of it. Because sometimes you can just stick 7 or just stick 8 on a deck, right? So like if you're able to blow past it in the mid game, the deck I think is significantly weaker. But if it is able to stick around at 2, even just an extra turn at 2 with climax combo is huge with this deck. But because it can heal so much, it has so much potential to do that, right? And I think because it can heal so much, and it's on pants, and it's very much a deck that allows it to recycle that combo over and over again. I would not be surprised to see this kind of deck existing in Swiss during this next season. That's been the 8 pants deck. Ayakashi Triangle has now entered the battlefield. We'll see what happens as it comes up in the fall season. Coming up soon, we're going to be talking about the fall season. Basically, once September hits, we should be back to our regular schedules, but